Space was never quiet. Not if you listened hard enough. Between the hum of life support systems, the distant ping of asteroid proximity alerts, and the occasional off-key singing of a lonely cargo pilot, it had a rhythm. Solitary, sure, but predictable. I liked it that way. My name's Jace Keller. Hauler, scaver, and part-time loner. I ran the Wayfarer, a patched-together medium freighter older than I was. Most of the time, I towed derelicts or mined scrap from the edges of old battlefields. I had just picked up a juicy job near the Ortiz Belt, a debris field thick with magnetic interference and leftover war tech. The haul was going fine. No pirates, no drone patrols, and the Wayfarer hadn't spontaneously combusted yet. I was 3 hours from completing the last tow clamp when my radar screamed. Impact warning. Fast approaching object. Live. What the hell? I muttered, slapping controls and redirecting external cams. A tiny ship. No, more like a pod. Shot out from a tumble of broken satellite panels, sparking, spinning, and bleeding atmosphere. It clipped my starboard winglet and ricocheted off, triggering a second round of alarms before crashing directly into my upper cargo bay. I stared at the display. "Oh, come on," I groaned. "Really? In my cargo bay?" I sealed off the affected zone, put on my pressure suit, and climbed the ladder to the upper bay. The wrecked pod had torn through a stack of old recyclables and left a neat little crater of melted metal and carbon scoring. And inside it was a small creature. Live. Breathing. 3 feet tall with oversized eyes, pale violet skin, and 2 flickering antennae atop her head like twitchy cat ears. She was unconscious, cradling something round and glassy in her arms. Her clothing looked more ceremonial than practical, woven ribbons and lightweight armor, half of it shredded from the crash. I stared. I sneezed. Middle of nowhere, and a tiny alien girl just fell into my lap. Literally. Middle. I got her to medbay before her oxygen fully ran out. The ship's autodoc chirped that she was stable. No broken bones, minor lacerations. Species. Unknown. Blood work. Incompatible with any known galactic registry. Language. Untranslatable. Great. The alien girl slept for almost 6 hours, curled up on the scanner bed with a glass orb clutched to her chest like a teddy bear. Meanwhile, I tried to file a report with Control Station Halberd, but comms were jammed, likely the same interference messing with my navigation. So I did what any solo scaver with common sense would do. I made coffee, barricaded the door, and stared at her from across the medbay with a stun pistol resting in my lap. When she finally woke up, she blinked at me, blinked at the ceiling, then said something that sounded like a musical hiccup. Then she pointed to her mouth and made a chomping motion. I handed her a nutrition bar. She took one bite, made a face like she'd eaten a tire, and set it aside with tragic sadness. Then she stood up on the scanner bed, puffed herself up like she was 6 feet tall instead of 3, pointed at herself dramatically and said, "Divan. Electrin. O'Shea." I raised an eyebrow. "Is that your name, or are you threatening me?" She pointed at herself again. "Divan." Then she pointed at me. "Keller. Jace Keller." She nodded solemnly and repeated, "Keller." Then patted the orb she carried like it was a precious baby. Despite the language barrier, I got the gist over the next hour. She wanted to fix her pod. She kept miming explosions and then tapping her temple like she was being hunted. She was lost. Probably a royal or a tech priestess, or someone important enough to be fleeing in a panic from a now-dead escort. Whatever the case, she was now my problem. The next few days were a mess. I still had a cargo job to finish, but I couldn't move the Wayfarer without risking a full systems crash, thanks to her ship fragments still embedded in my bay. I let her roam the ship a little, keeping her away from weapons, controls, and especially the comm system. Not because I didn't trust her. Well, okay, I didn't. Not fully. But mostly I just didn't want her to accidentally summon a fleet of angry warships from wherever she came from. She followed me like a curious puppy. She pulled apart tools to study how they worked, fixed a broken valve in my water recycler without being asked, and slept curled up in a blanket nest inside a storage bin. Her little antennae wiggled constantly, reacting to sounds, lights, even my heartbeat. I called her Thy for short. Every time I tried to bring her somewhere unsafe, she'd scramble up my leg like a squirrel and hiss in my face. When I turned on my NAV systems, she slapped the screen and shook her head with panic. That's when I realized someone might be tracking her. Middle. Escalation. I was mid-diagnostic when a proximity alert lit up red. Unidentified vessel approaching. No transponder. Armed. Pirates, I muttered. But then the long-range scan finished. Whoa. Not pirates. It was a Hunter-class starcutter. Impact. Deadly. And designed for assassination. Thy's reaction said it all. Her antennae flattened, and her little hands trembled. She grabbed the orb and ran to the cockpit, babbling a panicked song as she threw open my emergency console and started typing faster than any 3-foot alien had a right to. Keller! Keller! She shouted, pointing at the orb, then the approaching ship. Connected the dots. That orb wasn't just a trinket. It was a power source. Data drive. Or worse, something they had to destroy. I plugged the orb into my comms console, and my screens flared with code. Alien script, but decipherable patterns. My ship translated just enough to catch a warning. Target acquired. Artifact retrieval protocol. Non-compliance equals total vessel destruction. Well, that's not good, I muttered. The hunter ship hailed us. Mechanical voice cut through. Surrender the Ilari seed. You have 60 seconds. Turn to Thy. This thing is worth that much trouble. She looked at me. Is big. Scared. Determined. She didn't nod. But she didn't need to. Ending. I'm not a hero. I'm a scrapper. I survive by not taking sides. But there she was, barely taller than my knee, holding onto that orb like it was her last tie to home. And they wanted to vaporize her to get it. Not today. Get in the engine room, I said. Strap in. I'm gonna do something stupid. I rerouted all power to shields and vented excess heat to look like a reactor malfunction. Then I engaged the ship's mag tether and slingshot around a nearby asteroid using the debris field as cover. The hunter ship gave chase. Exactly what I wanted. I released a decoy pod carrying an overloaded reactor core, painted with I's life sign imprint. The hunter took the bait. One less assassin ship in the galaxy. We didn't talk much after that. Couldn't really. But she helped me patch up the hull. She finally ate one of my protein bars after I doused it in sugar syrup. She even let me scan the orb. It was remarkable. Some kind of living crystal matrix. A seed, literally, for terraforming. Capable of reshaping barren worlds into breathable sanctuaries. No wonder people were killing for it. Or her. I offered to take her to the nearest neutral station, but she refused. She pointed to the NAV map and drew a new route, deep into unclaimed space. Home. Guess. She nodded once. I dropped her off at the edge of the unknown. Gave her a backup battery, a comm unit, and a med kit.